Welcome to Java, and thank you kindly for joining. It's October 3rd, 2027. It is also Friday. As we are still in a government shutdown mode for the United States, markets kind of operating in the dark, not going to get the big report that they were looking forward to, which is to tell them about the recent status of employment. Now, we all know employment has gone down in quite a bit, regardless of what they say with their manipulated numbers, but we won't get a gauge of how they're feeling towards the market sentiment. So, as the markets operate in this dark data mode and we're heading into the weekend, let's take a look at what's going on in the markets. Fear greed meters in neutral. So we're going to use this as a sentiment in the meantime. We're also going to be watching the 10-year yield as well as the relative strength of the dollar. Now, both of these relatively level at the moment. We've got cryptocurrencies pulling back slightly. They did hit all-time highs again, and rising tide lifts all ships. So with this, they're pulling back a bit, and this is a little bit more of a healthy move, in my opinion, for the continuance that will occur afterwards. Now, we've got the stocks, equities, and futures all looking to stay in the green. I believe we are in melt up phase. So with this, we've got gold, silver, and oil all increasing. Now, crude hit kind of that $60 level. Soon as it starts getting there, that's also psychological support as well as on the charts. So looking forward, there is another OPEC Plus meeting. So depending on what they decide to do, that could have a definite effect on that. So watching that, I believe the only report we might get this morning is the ISM. So United States expectations, reality, manufacturing for the United States is down due to several other factors. Now, I got asked the other day, what would I do if they don't put out these reports? Well, the truth is, looking at those reports is a lagging indicator. I look at them to see kind of how the market is going to react forward. But in reality, there's a lot of other factors to look at that I believe are much more accurate and I give a little better view. For instance, one of them is carton. So if you look at the sales of carton or cardboard, what that is that's an indicator of the shipping, people shipping goods, packing, sending things. So when that declines significantly, it's a very telling leading indicator, not a lagging one. So while no indicator is totally accurate, that paired with shipping, watching companies, the volume they're doing, UPS, FedEx, the likes of that, as well as some of the goods. They had posted a story the other day about hot dogs for the United States. And when people are kind of ratcheting down their spending, what they're doing is they're purchasing less expensive replacement goods. That's a massive leading indicator that the consumer is not in very good shape. So, with this, let's move forward with the data we are getting. As I said, with everything I see, I'm expecting manufacturing down in real terms. Now, Argentina is one of the big stories because Besant has said that they are going to do a package deal. They're coming up to the United States today to kind of build this agreement together to see how they're going to bolster Argentina on their goods and kind of keep them going. Now, they've got a massive amount of resources. This is not without benefit to the United States, I assure you. We simply don't know the details yet. Now, we've got subprime sinking lenders. No shock here. We've been looking at this as well forward. This is credit, watching credit, which is actually debt. They love to call it things that throw people off. Now, subprime, we're looking mostly at automobiles, auto loans, credit cards, and these are all going underwater as people are beginning to stop paying them. They're letting cars be repossessed, not purchasing new vehicles. Car market is in a bit of a pickle, if you will. Even though Tesla reported yesterday they had good global sales, I think that is in a push for this EV credit, and I do believe numbers will be down next time around, unless there is some major surprise. So we've got the ECB, European Central Bank, picking tech partners for the digital euro. So they've chosen several digital partners to come in with this, but the bigger story on this is they are pushing forward their CBDC, and not coincidentally, they're also pushing the digital ID, starting mostly with the UK because they're kind of being the heavy wind moving forward for this. But they're going to couple the two, and they've made it very clear they're moving forward. So, something else that has come out of the IMF, and I believe this is a bit of truth finally, the United States dollar hitting a 30-year low and global foreign reserves. Now, this is what foreign banks hold in order to complete trade agreements. They have to purchase the US dollar, not just with the United States, but as a reserve currency between each other. Now, they've been dropping those and making agreements outside of this to purchase in their own native currency. So, US dollar going down globally in those foreign reserves. This actually could be a good thing to lessen the credit crunch because we are still headed toward a freeze. For this, this is what we keep our eyes on, the 10-year yield as well as the 2-year to watch that event. So with this, if you want to see real inflation numbers, this is one other venue that you can use that is not juiced or fluffed, if you will, by the Federal Reserve. Now, the calendar doesn't matter because none of these real reports are coming out. Instead, what we're getting is multiple Fed presidents on TV. So, if you weren't getting enough to see them, you can now see them on your telly and get more of their speeches. Now, they didn't clear this up, but we're definitely not getting the unemployment reports, delayed hourly wages. So we'll move forward because we know the truth already. Unemployment is far above the 4% areas that they're saying, more than double. If you watch Warren Tracker as well, again, back to the data that I use, so much more on Warren Tracker and other real data points. So the Google searches is another one. Searches for help with mortgage has hit 2009 levels as people are beginning to go underwater with their main investment, their homes. So if they're not renting, which is a lower percentage, they are now getting crushed to the downside. We had Apple, this is in a side story, but they are cutting a tracking app that is fueled by the public in order to push in whether you see ICE agents, which are for the immigration. And if you see them, you can put in where you've seen them to track them. So under threat of Pam Bondi, the AG, they had to take that down. So they're going to track you, but they don't like being tracked. We've got credit bureau stocks. I spoke about this yesterday, but Equifax is hurting as FICO, which is the Fair Isaac Corporation, decides to directly license your mortgage scores. Now, this is another massive move to one corporation that will not just track your mortgage scores, your credit rating, but they will also move into your social credit rating. So now that these are consolidated, we're going to get rid of that pesky capitalistic idea of having several and keeping it independent. We're moving to one corporation, which will be much more easy to control. So with all of this happening in the shutdown, which there are some very downside sectors, namely military families. So they're hurting for their food. They don't make a large amount of money as it is. And they're saying the armed services at the YMCA expected an increase, but not quite this massively. So this is food assistance because they're likely not going to get paid on the 15th. They've got to cover their expenses somehow, many of them living paycheck to paycheck. So now this is not going to happen. They've got to find other venues. Now, This is another kind of off story, but not really. China is now piloting underwater data centers in order to cut on carbon emissions. We were talking about this yesterday with the water cooling nuclear facilities. When you have this much data being run through computational, it generates massive amounts of heat. So they're talking about building underwater data centers and are going to warm the oceans back up for us. So going forward, stablecoin market cap surpassing 300 billion again. USDT, USDC, main stablecoins, they look to be the largest ones coming forward in the United States. Visa now opening Visa Direct to stablecoins. I spoke about this yesterday. Payments companies are the cornering for this. They are the very basis. So payments company opening real-time payments network, not just credit card any longer. This allows businesses to move money across borders when banks are closed. Very key there. So in the past, when the credit freeze happens, it's typically been bank holidays or closures of the sort so that they can catch up with the accounting, if you will, give themselves a break, reassess, and become liquid again. So looking at this forward, there will be bank closures, mergers and acquisitions more in the future. BankThink says stablecoins will blur the boundaries between banks and non-banks. That's the point. The entire point is to get rid of banks proper. It's going to be overtaken by these other corporations, and we are watching the very structure of all of these changing right now. It's going to be a very different financial landscape in the very near future. I thought this would be a little farther out, but it looks like they are massively moving in a rapid sense. Now, what is this all going towards? Of course, now I posted this, came from a response. This is off of X, but the government has responded to a petition not to introduce digital ID cards. How did they respond? We will introduce digital ID within the parliament to tackle illegal migration. Now, they were the ones that opened this illegal migration issue in the first place. And if you have any doubts as to whether it was by mistake or not, they should clear that up for you. And if you go on and read this a little bit further, it gives you a little bit of insight. So this is where it's headed: digital IDs, social credit score systems, as well as central bank digital currencies. I hope you are beginning to see the ties before they actually come out. How do you go against these? You stack your assets now outside of the system, ones you hold in your hand, not in the institutions. So with this, wish you all a wonderful weekend. I've got a few things going on. Monday might be a little bit interesting. I do have to travel again. So with all of this, much love to all of you. Until I see you again, my friends, resist.